Hey guys, my name is Nora Franch, and welcome to the podcast Grateful Blessed Mess, daily reflections for those in the 12 steps. I am a fellow 12-stepper and certified mindset coach, and I am here to introduce you to the value of mindset coaching in your 12-step journey. So if you feel like you are stuck in the steps, if you're slipping and sliding with your abstinence, mindset coaching may help you as it did me, and you can find me at catholicmindsetcoaching.com. These episodes are meant to invite you in to consider the truths of 12-step wisdom and to join in the very real struggle of living them in action. I hope that it feels almost like a mini meeting, and I invite you to contribute your own share on the Grateful Blessed Mess Facebook group to keep the discussion going. My comments are based on my own experience, so feel free to take what you like and leave the rest. But my hope is to encourage you on your own daily 12-step journey. As they say, you cannot stay clean on yesterday's shower. So without further ado, let's begin. Hey everyone, we are reading from Voices of Recovery, the quotation for October 23rd on page 297. We focused on others' faults and thought for hours about what they should do to solve their problems, while our own problems went unsolved. That's from the 12 and 12 of Overeaters Anonymous on page 12. And forgive me for chuckling at just the way that I relate to that. It's something that I wish I didn't do, that I think every human does. It's far easier to see, what they say, the splinter in your neighbor's eye as opposed to the beam in your own. So, yeah, I am one among many there. And I want it to feel like humility, but it feels a little, humiliating. But here we are. That's why I'm here. That's why I keep coming back. Let me read the reflection. I've done that for hours. I've done it for days when someone made me angry. I've done it for years when I thought about how I was brought up. When people share the mess instead of the message at meetings or elsewhere, I realize that I am not alone in getting things backward. I'm grateful that something, could it be my higher power, has been waking me out of these long reveries with the question, and am I doing what I would suggest to them? It's promising when I realize how my advice would apply to myself. It's progress when I put my advice into practice. May I tell myself early and often to mind my own business. May I take notice and act accordingly when my higher power gently makes a suggestion. Oh my gosh, I have so much to say here. Where do I start? First of all, sharing the mess instead of the message. Hello, grateful, blessed mess. I just want to throw that out there. That's just how ingrained I think, the 12 steps is in me that I would even come up with a freaking title like that. Okay, I think my higher power thought of it. Okay, so I'm grateful that something has been waking me out of these long reveries with the question, and am I doing what I would suggest to them? And this is where coaching just walloped me over the head. I learned something, it's called the model. And if you're into life coaching at all, you probably know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of the basic premise. It's a cognitive behavioral premise, and I didn't know what that meant, so I'll explain it to you. But it's basically how we understand our minds to work, in that we have an experience that's outside of us, and from that we have a thought about it, and from that thought it kind of stirs up an emotion that we feel in our body, and from that emotion we are moved to do or not do certain things, and then we end up with this result that is our life. And in coaching, we help people draw out those specific things. So let me go to just an example off the top of my head that used to be a common trigger for me. So coming home from boyfriend's house. Okay, this was in like college or grad school, something like that, because I still lived at home in grad school to save money. That's all right. Okay, so circumstance is I came home at midnight. And actually, you know what that's just like the situation. You know what the actual circumstance is I saw my dad sitting on the couch when I was walking up the driveway after coming home from my boyfriend's house at midnight. Okay, and then I have a thought. Oh, shoot. What's he going to be thinking? And from that thought, I feel the emotion of anxiety, like, ugh, like, shoot, I'm going to have to start talking the second I get in the door, just like fill the silence, right? So in that anxiety, what do? I start like having these racing thoughts in my head the second I get in the door. I start babbling about like, I did this and this and this and this and blah, 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 and I'm going to go to bed and goodbye. It was nice to see you. Good night. Okay, bye. Um, yep. And one of my most common triggers when I was really, really bad in the food was walking in the door at night. Walking in the door, I would just go straight to the pantry. And for the longest time, this was a very, very, very hard habit for me to break, and constantly would be like a pitfall or just something that tortured me. And I remember one night specifically where one of my early sponsors in program just stayed on the phone with me, and it was around midnight, and was talking to her about like my day or something, and I was telling her, about I was already anticipating this being hard. I was scared I couldn't do it. And she stayed on the phone with me the entire time while I walked in the house, walked through the mudroom, past the pantry, waved to my dad, went up the stairs, and went to bed and said goodnight to her. And to this day, like, I almost want to cry. I mean, who does that for another person? People in program do that for another person. That too. And I got through that night without losing my abstinence because my sponsor, another fellow, cared enough about me to stay on the phone with me while I walked through something that was very hard for me to do. And that for anyone who has an addiction, you know how hard that walk can be. So, yeah, I don't even remember why I started talking about that. Yes, because what I do for someone, what I'm suggesting to them. So in this model scenario, often the result is kind of like the thought, like almost like the thought that you're having turns out into reality. And so the thought is like, oh no, like my dad's there. My dad's there. And like it's almost like this underlying thought of like I think he's going to be upset with me or disappointed with me somehow. And so I just come in, I start babbling and babbling, blah, 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 blah. And what happens is I'm disappointed in myself. You see how that works? This is just an example off the cuff. So there are some that are a neater, tidier example. Like if you're scared of social situations and you go into a party, and then because you have this thought in your head of, I'm so uncomfortable, no one's going to like me. I'm going to be all alone. And what you do from that thought is, well, you're in fear or anxiety. And what you do is you kind of hide in the corner or hide out by the snack table. And what happens? You're all alone and nobody's talking to you. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so that's how the model works in a way that helps us just kind of like show you, like literally like on paper, how your thoughts are impacting your reality. And the whole thing behind that is that in that whole model, it's our thoughts that we can actually control. None of the rest of that we can't control what happens. The emotions just come. It's like a chemical reaction to the thought we have in our brain. And then we are moved to do or not do certain things. And so when we try to attack things from, you could say, okay, yes, you do have control over your actions. And yes, I do. But if I have a thought in my head that's making me want to do those things, I'm going to be fighting with, it's like a civil war within myself, where like this thought saying to do one thing in my, body, I'm white knuckling. That's what white knuckling is, when we're fighting ourselves internally and have this civil war going on, and it's not sustainable. And so the way to really change a habit or get out of your disease, in addition to the 12 steps, always 12 steps first. But what can help you to break those tough habits is changing your thoughts. Because if we are able to change our thoughts, the good actions just follow. And so we are becoming our own best friend instead of our own worst enemy when we start to intentionally engage in our thinking and our thought life in this way, in this perspective. So that was kind of long. I apologize. And I haven't even gotten the main point, but the that one line, and am I doing what I would suggest to them, is this very thing where I have a thought in my head of, oh, maybe I'm judging someone. They're doing such and such. Like, oh, they're so judgmental. Look at the way they're looking at me. And then what am I doing? I'm judging them for looking at me that way, and I'm looking at them. You know? It's that. If you are accusing someone of doing something, chances are you are somehow doing that same thing. And so it is this self-awareness piece that comes from the 12 steps and from mindset work that can really help you get to the point where you are free. You are free from those things, and where you get to start to see, once you get through that, once you're able to say, yes, I do that thing and I don't want to do that anymore, and get to actually start making those changes, then you get to a point where you can have gratitude. You can have gratitude and you can get out of those mental reveries, the big book calls them the grouch and the brainstorm, that aren't for us, and the dubious luxury of other men. I mean, every single day that line kind of runs through my mind like a little choo-choo train, just reminding me of like, hey, yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors here. But we don't have to do that anymore. And we call it staying on our side of the street. I've heard people elsewhere call it staying on your own paper, or staying in your own model, meaning like not getting into someone else's head, someone else's business. We call it staying on our side of the street. And that's basically meaning we're staying in what we do have control over. We are staying in this place. Our business is our own thoughts, emotions, actions. That's it. That is it. Not anything of anyone else's is our business, unless you have small children. Okay. Any other adult is beyond your locus of control, we call it. But, we can't control other people. So when we focus on other people's faults and thoughts for hours and what they should do to solve their problems while our own went unsolved, what that does is it puts me in the grouch and the brainstorm, or it puts me in a position of, I know better than you, of superiority, of condescension. All of these have nothing to do with humility. And inevitably, because of that, because humility is like the basement, the foundation, it's like the atoms that make the concrete in the matter of our foundation, of our recovery. Humility, none of those things are humility, and so they will inevitably lead us to slip or to relapse. And that is why this is not some pompous, homily about being a good person. It's you can engage in those other things, but you will relapse eventually, and a relapse could kill you. And so it is not only good to be good and nice to be nice, but if it's truly genuine because you've transformed the way that you think and view about the world, it will save your life. And with that, I pass. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you feel that mindset coaching could help you on your 12-step journey, please feel free to reach out and find me at catholicmindsetcoaching.com. But more than that, it's important to me to give listeners like yourself a place where you do not need to feel alone on your 12-step journey. And for that reason, I've created a Facebook group. It's called Grateful Blessed Mess. And it's a place where listeners can go to add their own commentary on the share for the day, in addition to my own, and for us just to have a conversation conversation or start a back and forth where people can find support in their 12-step journey. This is not a replacement for 12-step work. This is something outside of the 12 steps. It is simply something that has a heart for the 12 steps and those who are in it. And so, welcome. If you are here, chances are you may also be a bit of a mess. And I hope that you can learn to find some gratitude in the blessings that have come from your messes.